The mansion stood on a sprawling hill at the edge of the city, its white pillars shining in the morning sun. Every window reflected the light like tiny mirrors, and the gardens surrounding it were perfectly manicured, with roses of every color and fountains that whispered a soft melody. Inside, the house smelled of fresh flowers and polished wood, a place where every corner spoke of wealth and careful attention. But even in this palace of riches, the heart of the home was not the gold, the paintings, or the sparkling chandeliers. It was Lily, the little daughter of Mr. Harrison, the millionaire who owned the estate. Lily was only a year old, yet everyone who met her felt something special about her. Her big brown eyes were full of curiosity, always watching, always noticing. She had a tiny laugh that could fill the largest room with warmth, and her soft giggles often made the staff forget their tiredness. But Lily was also different from most babies. She did not smile at everyone who approached her, and she could sense when someone was not kind, often turning away from people who tried to win her affection with gifts or sweet words. The staff often joked that Lily had the wisdom of a little adult, and perhaps she did, for her reactions were honest and immediate, never fake. Her father, Mr. Harrison, adored her more than anything. Despite being a man of immense wealth, powerful connections, and a reputation that inspired respect, he had a gentle side that came alive only when he was with Lily. He would sit in the nursery for hours, watching her play with her toys, laughing at her clumsy attempts to stand, and whispering little secrets to her, as if she understood everything he said. He believed that her happiness was more important than anything money could buy, and the staff knew better than to disturb father and daughter during these special moments. The household was busy and well organized, as one would expect in a mansion of this size. There were maids cleaning the rooms, chefs preparing breakfast, and a team of nannies ensuring that Lily was safe and happy at all times. Despite the wealth and comfort, there was a rhythm to the house, almost like a carefully orchestrated dance, where everyone knew their role and the day flowed smoothly from morning to night. Yet even in this perfect order, there was always room for surprises, for the unexpected, and today would prove to be one of those days. The staff had received word that a new maid would be joining the household. Her name was Maria, a young woman from a nearby village. Known for her honesty, diligence, and gentle nature, she had excellent references, and the staff were confident she would fit in quickly. The news brought excitement, and even a little curiosity. For in a mansion of this size, every new person was noticed. Every face could change the rhythm of the household, especially in the nursery, where Lily's moods often dictated the day. Lily, unaware of the news, was playing with her favorite soft bear, her tiny fingers clutching it tightly. Her brown eyes sparkled as she crawled across the rug, laughing at the shadows cast by the morning sunlight. She was in her own world, completely absorbed in her play. The staff watched quietly, knowing that any sudden interruption could make her cry. For Lily had a way of letting everyone know immediately if she felt uncomfortable or unsure about something. Her cry was sharp, commanding, and impossible to ignore. It was her voice of judgment, and everyone respected it. Mr. Harrison appeared at the nursery door, wearing his usual calm expression, yet his heart always beat a little faster when he saw Lily. For him, she was not just a child, she was a little teacher, a mirror to the world, and sometimes a guide. He crouched down to her level, speaking softly. "Good morning, Lily," he whispered, brushing a lock of hair from her face. She looked up briefly and gave a tiny smile before returning to her toys. Her trust was earned slowly, and he understood that better than anyone. The staff were bustling quietly around the room, preparing for the arrival of the new maid. They moved with care, not wanting to disrupt Lily's playtime. There was a mixture of excitement and nervousness, for introducing anyone new into the nursery was always a delicate task. Lily could sense everything, her instincts sharp and her reactions immediate. She had never met Maria, yet somehow, the air of anticipation seemed to reach her, even before the new maid stepped foot in the room. As the clock ticked closer to the time Maria would arrive, Lily's curiosity grew. Her little brow furrowed slightly as she looked toward the door. Sensing change, something new was coming into her world, and she was ready to judge it in her own honest, instinctive way. Mr. Harrison watched silently, knowing that the reactions of a baby could sometimes reveal truths that adults overlooked. He smiled faintly, aware that today would be a day that no one in the household would soon forget. For in this grand mansion filled with wealth, luxury, and power, it was the judgment of a baby that would soon hold everyone's attention. The day had grown brighter, and the mansion seemed to hum with a quiet anticipation. Everyone in the household knew that Maria, the new maid, would arrive soon, and even the air felt different, carrying a sense of change that was hard to ignore. The staff moved with careful precision, polishing the floors, arranging fresh flowers, and making sure the nursery was perfect. For in a house like this, every detail mattered, but none more than Lily's comfort. At exactly 10 o'clock, the large front door opened, and Maria stepped inside, her posture polite and slightly nervous. She carried herself with grace, despite the obvious uncertainty in her eyes. The staff greeted her warmly, offering smiles and introductions, and she returned them with a soft nod. Her presence was gentle, yet there was a quiet strength about her that made people instantly trust her character. Meanwhile, in the nursery, Lily's eyes were fixed on the door, her tiny fingers clutching her favorite teddy bear. She had noticed the subtle changes in the house, the whispers of the staff, and the way her father had glanced toward the entrance. Something in the air told her that this was not an ordinary morning, and instinctively, she prepared herself. Babies often sense more than adults realize, and Lily was no exception. Maria entered the nursery with careful steps, her hands folded politely in front of her. She smiled softly at Lily, trying to appear friendly and harmless. "Hello, little one," she said, her voice warm and gentle, offering a small toy to capture the baby's attention. But Lily's reaction was immediate and unexpected. Her small body tensed, and she let out a sharp cry that echoed through the room, startling even the calmest staff. The head nurse, Mrs. Pennington, froze in surprise, glancing at Maria with wide eyes. She's never reacted like this before. She murmured, almost in disbelief. Mr. Harrison, who had been in the adjoining room, rushed in the moment he heard the cries. His heart raced as he saw his baby girl clinging to her teddy bear, her eyes wide with alarm, staring directly at Maria. "Lily, it's okay," he whispered gently, lifting her into his arms, trying to soothe her. Maria knelt down carefully, keeping her distance. "I won't hurt you, I promise," she said softly, her eyes kind and sincere, offering her hand slowly. Yet Lily's cries grew louder, and she shook her tiny fists as if trying to protect herself from something unseen. The tension in the room was almost tangible, every adult frozen in uncertainty, wondering why a baby would react so strongly. Mr. Harrison studied his daughter closely, understanding that her reactions were never random. He had seen Lily's instincts before, moments when she would accept or reject people immediately, and he knew this was one of those rare times when a choice was being made. "Let her decide," he said quietly to the staff, his voice calm, yet commanding. Sometimes a baby sees what adults cannot. The room grew quiet as Mr. Harrison held Lily, letting her observe Maria on her own terms. Lily's eyes followed every movement, her tiny brows furrowed as she analyzed the new face. Maria remained patient, kneeling at a respectful distance, showing no frustration, only kindness and gentleness. It was a silent test, a delicate moment where patience and sincerity were everything. After what felt like minutes, Lily's cries began to soften, her tiny hands stretching hesitantly toward Maria. Everyone held their breath, watching the slow but meaningful gesture. The baby's eyes met Maria's, searching, assessing, and finally, finding something she liked. The tension in the room melted into a quiet awe, as if everyone realized that a tiny heart had just made an enormous decision. Mr. Harrison smiled softly, whispering to Lily, "See, I knew you could tell." Lily's tiny laugh echoed through the nursery, her fear replaced by curiosity and acceptance. Maria's eyes glistened as she gently picked up the baby's hand, understanding the unspoken trust that had been granted. From that moment, the first bond between the little girl and her new maid was formed, a bond built not on words, or instructions, but on honesty, instinct, and genuine care. The household staff exchanged amazed glances, whispering to each other about the miracle they had just witnessed. Even Mrs. Pennington, who had cared for Lily for years, shook her head in disbelief. "I've never seen her react like that so quickly," she admitted. The entire mansion seemed to breathe a little lighter, filled with the warmth of this newly formed connection. A simple moment, yet one that would change the rhythm of the household forever. After the first cautious moments, the nursery seemed quieter, yet the air remained thick with tension. Everyone in the room could feel it, the tiny heartbeat of a decision unfolding in front of them. Lily, still nestled in her father's arms, was no longer crying but watching Maria intently, her big brown eyes studying every move, every tilt of the head, every step, every gesture mattered to her, and she reacted with a focus that no adult could match. Maria remained still, kneeling at a careful distance, her hands clasped together, her face calm and gentle. She had worked with children before, but never a child like Lily, whose instincts were sharper than most adults' intuition. She smiled softly, offering no pressure, only patience and a sense of kindness that seemed to fill the room. For the first time, the staff began to notice something remarkable. The way a baby could communicate so clearly without words. Mr. Harrison observed quietly, his eyes fixed on Lily. He had always believed that children could sense things adults missed, and now he was witnessing it firsthand. Lily's small fingers twitched, as if considering whether to reach out or pull away. She was cautious but curious, weighing the intentions of someone she had never met. Her judgment was honest and immediate, and everyone knew that whatever decision she made would be final. To test the situation, Mr. Harrison spoke softly to Lily. "Do you want to meet her, little one?" he asked, his voice full of warmth. He did not coerce or push, for he understood that trust could not be forced. Lily's tiny head tilted slightly, and she gave a quiet whimper, signaling that she was still unsure. Her gaze did not leave Maria, who remained completely still, her eyes kind and patient, showing no frustration or hurry. Slowly, Lily extended a trembling hand toward Maria, stopping midway, as if reconsidering. The staff held their breath, amazed at the silent dialogue unfolding. The tiny hand hovered for a moment, then withdrew slightly, a mix of caution and curiosity. Mr. Harrison smiled faintly, whispering to her, "It's okay, Lily. Take your time." The baby's instincts were guiding her, and he knew better than to interfere. Maria reached out gently, allowing Lily to lead the interaction. Her movements were slow and deliberate, never forcing contact, showing the baby that she could be trusted. Lily's eyes softened slightly, and she began to move a little closer, her tiny hands brushing against Maria's, hesitant at first, then with growing confidence. The first touch was brief but meaningful, a small bridge built between two worlds. The staff could hardly contain their excitement, whispering to one another about the miracle they were witnessing. Even Mrs. Pennington, who had cared for Lily since birth, shook her head in awe. "I've never seen her test someone like this before," she murmured. Her voice carried both surprise and admiration, for the baby's instincts were extraordinary, and the way Maria responded showed a rare blend of patience and sincerity. Lily finally giggled softly, a sound that made everyone's hearts leap. Her hand rested lightly on Maria's arm, and she looked up at her father with a sense of pride, as if to say, "I have made my choice." Mr. Harrison chuckled quietly, his eyes shining with emotion. "Yes, you have, my little one," he whispered, realizing that in this simple moment, his daughter had taught a lesson that money, power, or influence could never teach. From that moment, the atmosphere in the nursery transformed. The tension and uncertainty vanished, replaced by warmth and connection. Lily began to crawl toward Maria, and the maid responded by opening her arms, allowing the baby to climb into them naturally. It was a perfect, wordless understanding, a bond built on instinct, trust, and patience rather than force or persuasion. Mr. Harrison looked around the room at the staff, who were still in awe. "Sometimes the smallest hearts know the biggest truths," he said softly. Everyone nodded, realizing that today they had witnessed something extraordinary, a baby's honesty revealing a truth that adults might have overlooked. Maria smiled, tears threatening to fall, knowing that she had earned the trust of the most discerning little heart she had ever met. The morning ended with Lily playing happily in Maria's arms, her laughter filling the nursery. The connection had been made, and the household would never forget the day when a baby's instincts and a maid's patience created a bond that would last forever. It was a moment of learning, love, and wonder, and it set the stage for the incredible journey that was about to unfold in the mansion. The nursery was filled with a quiet, magical energy, the kind that only comes from moments when trust is earned and hearts connect. Lily sat in Maria's lap, her tiny hands exploring the folds of the maid's uniform. Her laughter bubbled out in soft giggles, a sound that seemed to make the room brighter. The staff exchanged amazed glances, whispering among themselves, for they had never seen Lily react to anyone in such a calm and accepting way so quickly. Mr. Harrison, standing nearby, observed silently, his eyes reflecting both pride and surprise. He had always known that his daughter had an extraordinary ability to sense people's true intentions, but seeing it in action still left him in awe. He stepped closer, kneeling down beside them. "Lily seems to have made her choice," he said softly, smiling at Maria, who returned the gesture with a humble nod. There was a silent understanding between them all that something rare and precious had just occurred. But Lily was not done testing. Her instinctive nature was far from satisfied. She shifted slightly, tilting her head, and gazed at Maria with a mixture of curiosity and challenge. It was as if she were saying, "I will trust you, but I will also watch you carefully." Maria understood instantly, and she remained calm, speaking in a gentle voice. "I promise to take care of you, Lily, and I will always be honest with you." The baby's eyes seemed to search her words, measuring their truth with her small but discerning heart. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath, everyone waiting to see if the connection would hold. Lily slowly reached out and touched Maria's cheek, then pulled back, her tiny smile appearing and disappearing like the first rays of sunlight. Mr. Harrison chuckled quietly. "She's testing you," he whispered to the head nurse, who nodded in agreement. "Yes, sir. She does this with everyone, but it's rare for someone to pass on the first try," Mrs. Pennington said, amazed by the baby's judgment. Maria remained patient, letting Lily take the lead, allowing her to explore, to test, to decide on her own terms. She lifted the baby gently, showing that her arms were safe, her touch warm and caring. Slowly, Lily began to relax completely, snuggling against Maria as if she had finally found someone who could understand her. The staff watched in awe, realizing that the bond formed was not just between a maid and a child, but between trust and sincerity, between instinct and patience. Mr. Harrison knelt beside them, holding Lily's tiny hand in his, and whispered, "Sometimes, my dear, the world may seem complicated, but your heart knows what is right." Lily looked up at him with a small giggle, her brown eyes sparkling with mischief and wisdom beyond her years. It was a moment of clarity for everyone present, a reminder that innocence often carries the most powerful insight. The morning sunlight streamed through the large nursery windows, casting warm light on the three of them. Lily played with Maria's hair, tugging gently while Maria responded with soft laughter. The baby had accepted her fully, and yet the instinctive wariness remained just beneath the surface, a quiet reminder that trust was precious and could never be forced. Every small gesture mattered, every word, every smile. The staff began to move about the nursery again, tidying up and preparing for the day, but no one dared interrupt the bond that had been created. Mr. Harrison stepped back for a moment, watching his daughter's happy face, and felt a wave of gratitude. It was a rare and beautiful thing to witness, a moment that reminded him that some lessons in life could only be learned from a child's pure and honest heart. By midday, Lily was laughing freely, crawling between Maria and her father, her tiny arms reaching out for both. The room had transformed from a place of routine into a space of warmth, trust, and discovery. Mr. Harrison smiled, realizing that today was not just the first day of a new maid, but the beginning of a remarkable relationship. one that would teach patience, love, and the extraordinary power of a child's instincts. The afternoon sun cast long, warm shadows across the nursery, but inside, the air was alive with anticipation. Lily sat in Maria's lap, her tiny fingers tracing the folds of the maid's dress, her eyes wide and shining. The quiet moments of testing and observation had led to this point, where curiosity and trust collided. Everyone in the room seemed to sense it. The invisible tension that only a truly extraordinary moment could bring. Mr. Harrison watched closely. Kneeling at the edge of the room, his heart raced as he observed his daughter's behavior, for he knew instinctively that something monumental was about to happen. Lily's little hands had stopped fidgeting, and her gaze was locked on Maria, as if she were making a silent, unspoken decision. The maid remained calm, her voice gentle. "It's okay, Lily, I'm here for you," she whispered, offering nothing more than patience and kindness. The baby's tiny hand hovered over Maria's arm, paused midair, and then slowly, deliberately, it touched her. A soft giggle escaped Lily's lips, and she leaned closer, her head resting lightly against Maria's chest. The room seemed to exhale collectively, a quiet, reverent moment, as if everyone knew that what had just happened was rare and extraordinary. The baby had made her judgment, and it was final. But Lily's instincts were not just about acceptance. They were about testing the depth of sincerity. She looked up at Maria, her big brown eyes scanning her face, searching for the truth in her expression. Maria's gentle smile did not falter, and her warmth radiated without words. It was enough, for Lily's intuition, sharp as it was, could sense honesty and kindness, and she allowed herself to relax fully for the first time that day. The staff, who had been standing quietly along the walls, exchanged astonished glances. Their whispers were barely audible, yet filled with awe. "I've never seen her react like that," Mrs. Pennington said softly. "It's as if she knew exactly what kind of person Maria is." Mr. Harrison smiled, a proud, almost protective smile. "Sometimes the smallest hearts see the clearest truths," he murmured, his eyes never leaving Lily and Maria. Suddenly, Lily reached out further, wrapping her tiny arms around Maria's neck, a gesture of pure trust and affection. Maria responded immediately, holding the baby close, her face shining with quiet tears of joy. The bond had been formed, not through words or instructions, but through instinct, patience, and genuine care. In that instant, the nursery transformed from a room of routine and order into a space of warmth, love, and profound connection. Mr. Harrison gently lifted Lily into his arms, holding her between himself and Maria, creating a circle of safety and trust. "Look at her," he whispered to the staff. "She's made her choice, and it's a powerful one." Lily cooed happily, reaching out to touch her father's face as well, showing that acceptance could be shared, that love could grow in many directions at once. The staff watched in silence, moved by the extraordinary simplicity of the moment. It was a moment that would be remembered for years, a small but profound miracle that unfolded in front of them all. The baby, so tiny and yet so perceptive, had revealed something adults often missed, that truth, patience, and sincerity mattered more than wealth, titles, or appearances. Mr. Harrison's heart swelled with gratitude, knowing that his daughter's judgment had not only welcomed Maria into the household, but had taught everyone a lesson about honesty, trust, and the power of a pure heart. By the time the afternoon sunlight softened into evening, Lily was giggling freely, crawling between Maria and her father, her tiny hands exploring, her laughter filling the nursery with joy. Maria responded with gentle warmth, nurturing the trust she had earned. The staff had resumed their duties, yet the energy of the extraordinary moment lingered in the air, a silent reminder that sometimes the smallest hearts hold the greatest wisdom. And so, the mansion, for all its grandeur and riches, had been reminded that true value lay not in wealth or power, but in honesty, patience, and love. The millionaire's baby had cried upon seeing the new maid, but what followed had shocked everyone, revealing a story of trust and connection that would never be forgotten. It was a moment of revelation, a turning point, and a memory that would shape the household forever. The next morning, the mansion was alive with a gentle energy that had not been there before. Lily woke up with a bright smile, her tiny feet padding across the nursery floor as she searched for Maria. The baby's instinctive bond with the new maid had grown stronger overnight, and she seemed almost impatient to see her again. Maria, who had arrived early to begin her duties, was waiting in the nursery, her face lighting up at the sight of Lily. The baby's eyes sparkled, and she giggled, crawling straight into Maria's arms, as if saying, "I knew you were the right one." From that day on, their connection grew deeper and more natural. Lily began to respond to Maria's presence in ways that amazed the staff. She would reach for her when she wanted comfort, follow her around the room during playtime, and even mimic her gentle smiles. It was a bond built not on force or instruction, but on trust, patience, and understanding. Maria, in turn, treated Lily with extraordinary care, her every movement calm and deliberate, her voice always warm and soothing. She learned to read the baby's moods and respond before any fuss could start, creating a rhythm between them that felt effortless. Mr. Harrison watched these moments quietly, often from the doorway or a corner of the room. His heart swelled with pride and gratitude, for he knew that money or influence could never have created such a bond. Only sincerity, patience, and kindness could earn the trust of a heart as pure as Lily's. He often whispered to himself, "Even the richest man cannot buy what this baby has given freely." The staff noticed a change in the atmosphere. The mansion seemed warmer, filled with laughter and gentle chatter, all centered around the small but extraordinary girl and the maid she had chosen. Every day, Lily and Maria found new ways to connect, from story time to playtime. From morning routines to afternoon naps, they were inseparable. The baby learned that Maria's arms were a place of safety, while Maria discovered that Lily's tiny gestures carried wisdom beyond her years. It was a lesson in patience and love, a reminder that trust could not be demanded, only nurtured. The household began to notice changes in Lily as well. She became more confident, more curious, and even more playful. Maria encouraged her to explore, always nearby to provide comfort or guidance. Lily would giggle and babble, sometimes reaching for Maria as she crawled across the room, her little hands grabbing at toys or the edge of the rug. Each gesture was a testament to the trust and bond they shared. It was a connection that made the nursery a place of joy, warmth, and security. Mr. Harrison often joined in their play, kneeling on the floor beside them. Watching Lily and Maria interact, he marveled at the way his daughter had chosen Maria and how instinctively the maid had understood her. "It's incredible," he whispered to Mrs. Pennington one afternoon. "This child knows people's hearts better than any of us could imagine." She nodded, smiling. "And Maria has shown that patience and kindness can earn trust that no amount of wealth can buy." As the days turned into weeks, the bond only grew stronger. Lily would sometimes crawl to Maria first thing in the morning, refusing to play with anyone else until she had been held and comforted. Maria laughed softly, picking her up gently, her voice filled with warmth. "Good morning, my little friend." The staff would watch these interactions in awe, realizing that the relationship was not just about a baby and a maid, but about patience, empathy, and the extraordinary way trust could be built. By the end of the week, it was clear to everyone that Lily and Maria had formed a connection that would last a lifetime. The baby had not just accepted the new maid. She had chosen her, and in doing so, had taught the entire household a valuable lesson about instinct, honesty, and the power of a gentle heart. Mr. Harrison often stood silently in the doorway, watching the two of them, knowing that this bond, created by trust and nurtured with love, was far more precious than anything money could ever buy. The mansion was quiet in the late afternoon, the golden sunlight streaming through the tall windows, yet the nursery was alive with laughter and gentle chatter. Lily sat on the soft rug, her tiny hands busy with blocks, but her eyes were constantly on Maria, watching every movement, every smile, every gentle gesture from the maid made her giggle and reach out. It was no longer just acceptance. It was love, a bond so natural and deep that it filled the room with warmth. Mr. Harrison sat nearby, observing silently, his hand resting on his shin as he marveled at the unfolding scene. He had watched Lily test Maria, watched her instinctively decide whether the maid could be trusted, and now he saw the results of that choice. The baby's eyes sparkled with joy, her laughter ringing like bells, and Maria responded with patience, playfulness, and unwavering care. The connection between them was unmistakable, a silent understanding that had grown stronger with every passing day. The staff moved quietly around the nursery, tidying up and preparing tea, but no one dared interrupt the magical atmosphere. Everyone felt the significance of what had happened. A baby's instinct had chosen a person to trust, and that trust had been honored and nurtured. Mrs. Pennington whispered to a young maid, "I've never seen anything like this in all my years. Lily has made her judgment, and Maria has earned it completely." The young maid nodded, her eyes wide. "It's incredible, sir, the way a child can see people's hearts." Suddenly, Lily reached for Maria's hand and tugged her closer, her tiny giggle turning into a full laugh. "She's claiming you now," Mr. Harrison whispered softly, smiling. "Not just testing," she's saying. "You are safe. You belong here." Maria knelt down to the baby's level, letting her crawl in her lap fully, hugging her gently. The maid's heart swelled with emotion, for she realized the weight of what had been placed in her hands, the trust of a pure and honest little soul. As the afternoon passed, Lily became bolder, exploring the room while glancing back at Maria, her safety net. The baby's trust had transformed into confidence, a sense that the world was safe when love and honesty were present. Mr. Harrison watched quietly, feeling a mix of pride, gratitude, and astonishment. It was rare to witness a bond so instinctive and strong, one that transcended age, status, and wealth. Then came the moment that truly shocked everyone. Lily toddled toward a guest who had arrived unexpectedly, a wealthy friend of Mr. Harrison. But instead of reaching out, she stopped and shook her head, turning back to Maria. The guest looked puzzled. But the message was clear. Lily's instincts were guiding her, and she was showing that trust could not be commanded. It could only be earned. Mr. Harrison laughed quietly. "Even our friends must earn her trust," he whispered, a proud glint in his eye. Maria held Lily close, smiling, realizing that the baby had not only chosen her, but had also taught a lesson to everyone in the house. The most discerning heart, the smallest voice, had made the final judgment, and it was a lesson that no one would forget. The staff nodded in agreement, their admiration growing for both the baby and the maid, for they had witnessed something rare and extraordinary. By evening, the nursery had transformed completely, from a room of cautious testing to a haven of trust, joy, and love. Lily played happily at Maria's side, her laughter filling the corners of the mansion. Mr. Harrison stood quietly in the doorway, watching the scene, feeling a wave of peace and pride. His daughter had made a choice, and that choice had shocked everyone. Not because it was unexpected, but because it revealed a truth adults often overlooked. Innocence sees deeper than experience. Honesty matters more than appearances, and trust is the most precious gift of all. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the mansion, Lily snuggled in Maria's arms, her tiny hand clutching the maid's sleeve. Her smile radiated pure contentment, and Maria's heart felt full. Mr. Harrison knew that this bond, born from instinct and nurtured by care, would endure, a reminder that sometimes the smallest hearts teach the biggest lessons. The mansion was calm that evening, the golden light of sunset spilling through the windows and casting a warm glow across the nursery. Lily sat on the soft rug, her tiny hands busy with her favorite toys. But her eyes were never far from Maria. The bond they had formed over the past days had grown stronger than anyone could have imagined, and the nursery now felt like a place of love, trust, and laughter. Maria knelt beside her, guiding Lily gently as she stacked colorful blocks. "You're so clever, Lily," she said softly, smiling, and the baby giggled in response, reaching up to touch Maria's face. Her laughter echoed through the room like music, and Mr. Harrison watched quietly from the doorway, a smile spreading across his face. There was pride, wonder, and gratitude all mixed into one, for his daughter had chosen wisely, and Maria had proven herself patient, kind, and trustworthy. It was amazing to see how far they had come, from the very first moment when Lily had cried upon seeing the new maid, to now, when she laughed, played, and snuggled comfortably in Maria's arms. The house staff, who had watched every interaction, were quietly amazed, whispering to each other about the extraordinary intuition of a tiny child and the quiet grace of a woman who had earned her trust. Mrs. Pennington shook her head in wonder. "I've never seen anything like this," she said softly. "A baby's honesty is more powerful than anything money or influence can buy." Mr. Harrison walked into the room, kneeling beside his daughter. "Lily, you made the right choice," he said gently, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead. She looked up at him with her big brown eyes, a small giggle escaping as if to say, "I knew what was right." Maria smiled at the exchange, understanding that the bond between father and daughter, and between herself and the baby, was now something sacred, built on trust, honesty, and love. Over the next few moments, Lily crawled between Maria and her father, her tiny hands reaching out to both, showing that she felt safe, happy, and completely accepted. It was a moment of perfect harmony, a circle of love and care that included everyone present. Even the staff, who had quietly resumed their duties, paused to watch the little scene, feeling the warmth and the significance of what had unfolded. Mr. Harrison stood up, his heart full, and addressed the staff softly. "What we witnessed these past days is a lesson we should all remember. Even the tiniest heart can see the truth better than we ever can. Innocence, patience, and sincerity are gifts we must honor, and trust is earned, never given lightly." His words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning, and everyone in the room nodded quietly, deeply moved. Maria lifted Lily into her arms, holding her gently, whispering soft words of affection. "I will always be here for you, Lily." The baby snuggled closer, her trust complete. Her instinct had led her to Maria, and Maria's kindness had confirmed it. The connection between them was now unbreakable, a relationship built on understanding, patience, and genuine care. The house that had once been filled with routine now overflowed with love and laughter, a reflection of the bond formed in its heart. As evening turned to night, Lily lay in Maria's lap, sleepy but happy, her tiny hand clutching the maid's sleeve. Mr. Harrison watched them, his heart full of gratitude and wonder. He realized that no amount of wealth could ever compare to the joy of witnessing such pure love and trust. He whispered to himself, "Even a millionaire's riches cannot buy the truth a baby gives freely." The lesson was clear, and it would remain in the hearts of everyone in the mansion forever. The mansion was quiet once more, the lights dimmed, and the stars twinkled outside the windows. But inside, the warmth remained, the bond unbroken. Lily had cried upon seeing the new maid, and in that simple, honest reaction, a story of trust, patience, and love had unfolded. It was a story that would be remembered, a story that showed that even the smallest hearts can teach the greatest lessons, and that trust and kindness are the most valuable treasures of all.